Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Illinois Extension is happy to host another Illinois Office of Broadband presentation here, as well as with DCEO. And this is an Illinois Broadband Lab series that we are hosting with the Illinois Broadband Lab, which is really a larger entity that really envelopes our partnership with the state and Extension and the U of I system. So wonderful to have this series going on. We've got, I'm sure there will be a little bit of an overview of what that entails. I think Matt's going to cover that for us. So we're definitely happy to welcome back Matt Schmidt, Deputy Director for Broadband with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. And he has brought Amber Broughton with him, who is from the DCEO Grants Accountability Office. She's going to cover procurement and grants accountability and transparency. We were very grateful to get this information. And without further ado, I will go ahead and hand it over to you now, Matt. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Mike. Pleasure to join you today. This is the second in a series of webinars, pretty much spanning the summer months, talking about kind of grant application, grant receipts, Grant Administration 101 in Track A. And also we've got some building community leadership content for folks in a complementary Track B of our webinar series. And so we're really happy to be able to talk today about the Grants Accountability Transparency Act, and in particular, procurement ramifications of applying for a grant, accepting a grant, and making sure that you stay on the right side of the law and requirements accordingly. And so before we launch in here, I just want to again thank my colleague Amber at the Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity Accountability Office for lending her expertise to this conversation today. Really important for our applicants, whether you're looking at our Connect Illinois Broadband Infrastructure Grant Program or our new and exciting Digital Equity Capacity Kickstarter program, and any additional offerings that come down the pike in the coming weeks and months, that you understand the grant application process, all that it entails, and that you are invested in getting it right from the start. Because we certainly want to see a lot of success with our applicants who become grantees and have smooth sailing all along the way. And so the next slide here will show a little bit about the dual track webinar series that we have planned. Again, this is Track A, the second installment of 4, talking about guidance for grant applications and grant management. And again, Track B will start next week, July 27th, looking at broadband and digital equity education and related opportunities, particularly focused on developing broadband leadership at the local level. And so folks, all of this content is curated online, as Nancy had mentioned. So if you're catching this after the fact, just know that this is one of a series of webinars designed to put you, your community, in a position to seize historic funding opportunities for broadband infrastructure expansion and digital equity. And so without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic to my colleague, Amber. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Amber Broughton, and I'm with DCEO in the Office of Accountability. So today we're going to be talking about GATA and the GATA grantee portal. We're also going to be talking about procurement. Let's see. Okay, so if you were with us last week, I went into kind of what GATA means and what the GATA grantee portal, what that entails and what you need to know about it. Just going to do a refresher on that, not go into as much detail, but of course you can look at that recording from last week to get more of the details on it. Pre-qualification, I'll go over that a little bit again. That's the required items that you need to be in good standing to be able to apply for a grant and to be able to receive your funding. And then we're going to go into procurement standards. With the Office of Accountability, we focus on those kind of bigger picture standards as far as broadband procurement. That's going to be more of questions for Matt and his team, but I'm going to give you kind of a bigger picture just to make sure you're aware of what the procurement guidelines are for the state of Illinois. All right, so this is kind of just going through the grant life cycle for a competitive grant like the one that we are focusing on today. So we're looking at those pre-award requirements, those pre-qualification items, like you need to be a current SAM.gov account and it needs to be active. You need to not be on the federal excluded parties list. You need to be in good standing with the Secretary of State, and those items. Those are all part of the pre-award requirements, the things that you need to get done ahead of time before you are applying for a grant. So then it goes on to, you apply for the grant, you get in your documents and all of the application materials. Then it goes to a merit review committee where it is reviewed. And once, if you are going to be receiving the grant, you will be notified after that point whether or not you are you were a successful applicant and you are going to be a part of this grant program. So after that, you will be assigned a grant manager who will be kind of your go-to DCEO person who will help you along the way to get that grant agreement executed. So these are the terms of the grant that will need to be in place and need to be totally executed and in place before you receive the funding. So your grant manager and other DCEO staff are going to help you along the way with that. So you have an active grant, you are working on your grant project, you are showing that objectives are being met and sending in those financial reports, making sure that you're doing the work that you said you were going to do. Then you will start being paid. You'll get the grant funding. It's generally on a reimbursement basis. For this grant, it will be, and those grants will be dispersed based on if you are successfully turning in your reporting with your grant manager, which that will be laid out for you once you are a grantee and your application is approved. Okay, so when we say GATA, what does that mean? GATA stands for the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. This was created as state offices, state departments were, they had kind of different rules for different grants, different entities, and it was causing frustration with grantees. So this was a way to remove redundancies and to streamline the grant process. It increases accountability and transparency. And what the state of Illinois did is they decided to follow the federal guidance of 2 CFR 200. So we'll put that in the chat, a link to that, but you could also just Google 2 CFR 200 and it'll come right up. These are the federal requirements that the state of Illinois has adopted. So I'm going to go a little into that, and I might reference 2 CFR 200, but this is kind of just to let you know where these requirements are coming from when we talk about GATA and when we talk about procurement. It's coming from this act and 2 CFR 200. Okay, the GATA grantee portal. If you are new to state of Illinois grants, this is something that you will definitely want to check out first. This is where you're going. So grants.illinois.gov/portal, and you will need to create an account for your business, your organization. If your entity already has a registration in the GATA grantee portal, you will need to access that or find out who in your with your staff who has access to that, and make sure that you are in there, make sure that things are accurate, make sure that any updates are ready to go, because this is kind of the go-to spot for all things grants in the state of Illinois. So I recommend checking out the GATA New User Guide. This is a great tool if you are brand new to this site, the GATA Grantee Portal, or if it's been a while and you need a refresher. It provides step-by-step instructions on getting started with this portal. I reference it a lot myself, and it's a good tool to have. So make sure you're looking at that. I also recommend checking out gata.illinois.gov. So I'm with DCEO. These are the Governor's Office of Management and Budget. This is the whole state of Illinois' GATA resources. So they've got a lot of good information on that site. So check that one out. Okay, pre-qualification. If you were on the call last week, you probably heard me talking about this one. It's a set of requirements that need to be in place to be able to receive funding from the state of Illinois. And you will find your entity's pre-qualification status in the GATA Grantee Portal. So it's a set of requirements that all organizations and entities seeking to receive grant funding they need to comply with. So entities seeking to do business with the state of Illinois must meet these requirements to be deemed qualified and in good standing. It demonstrates that an organization has met all legal requirements and has obtained all of the necessary registrations. Pre-qualification status must first be obtained by an entity, but this status must be maintained for the entire lifespan of the grant program. So it is something that you will need to check back on. Most of these items are automatically updated in the grantee portal, but it is something to look out for as you are kind of through this grant cycle. So especially when you are looking to apply for a grant, this is when you want to for sure know the status of your pre-qualification. So let's see. Okay, here's an example of what a pre-qualification might look like in the GATA Grantee Portal. So as you can see, some of these items are in red. Red means that you are not in good standing for that particular item. So let's see, we've got this entity's sam.gov account is not in good standing or needs to be updated. You would click on this help button to see how you can remediate this. If you see something in yellow, that means that it's pending. So that means that something has maybe been submitted and needs to be evaluated by the state. That can take a day or two. So don't worry too much about those yellow ones. That means that something is in the works. But the red ones are the ones that you as a potential grantee need to make sure you get on those and make sure you find out what needs to happen before you apply for the grant, because some of these items, they can take a little while, up to, I've seen, at least a week or so, some of these items. So make sure you're getting these in right away. Okay, other GATA Grantee Portal tips. We see this a lot in accountability. Just make sure that you are maintaining a current and accurate contact list. When you get notices from the GATA Grantee Portal, you want to make sure that they're going to the right person or persons. You could have more than one person receive notifications. You also want to make sure that more than one person has access to your entity's portal page. So you don't want that on just one person, just one email, in case something goes awry and you need to manage that. Make sure there's more than one. Also make sure that your fiscal year end date is accurate. This will come into play further down the line when audits are are asked for, you're going to want to make sure that it aligns with your entity's fiscal end date. Okay, so let's go into procurement. So let's imagine that you have, you're pre-qualified, you have gone through the application process, your application was approved, and you have been chosen as a recipient of this grant. So now it's time to fulfill your grant objectives and spend the grant funding on expenditures that help meet your project's objectives. So that gets into procurement, and procurement standards must be followed with your grant from the state of Illinois. These standards help you efficiently spend grant funds by helping you identify the most cost-effective option to carry out your grant. So if the big takeaway from procurement standards is efficient spending and cost effectiveness. So how do we go about that? The procurement standards that the state of Illinois follows comes from that 2 CFR 200. So you can, once you're into CFR 200, you can look at the particular procurement section for more details on this. But I'm gonna give you kind of an overview of the procurement standards that you need to know about as a potential grantee. So I'm going to provide a general overview of the state procurement standards, and for procurement standard questions related to a specific grant, that would be a question for your grant manager. So that's the person that you will be assigned to once you are a grantee. This is just kind of a bigger picture overview. So we've got 5 procurement methods that you must follow with your grant funds. These include micro purchases, small purchases, sealed bids, proposals, and non-competitive procurements. Okay, micro purchases. These are purchases that are typically under $10,000, but the threshold may be less in some circumstances, but for the most part, it's under $10,000. If you are making a purchase for under $10,000, you are expected to make this purchase after reviewing the price for reasonableness, which means that your organization determines through experience that the price of the product or the price of the service is reasonable. So that's the main takeaway with micro purchases, is that if it is a reasonable price for that, using your entity's expertise, those are okay for micro. Okay, the category of small purchases. These are purchases that are typically, I have under above. So it's above 10,000, but under 250,000. So it's in those parameters. It may be different in some circumstances. This is kind of the general rules on that. So you're required when making small purchases to receive quotes from an adequate number of sources. DCEO recommends directly contacting up to 3 vendors that can provide this product or service so that you can identify and purchase from the most cost-effective option. Okay, on to the next category of sealed bids. Sealed bids are required for purchases typically above $250,000, but maybe less on some circumstances. A sealed bid is used when a price is the main factor in determining where to purchase the product or service. You must publicly solicit vendors through a detailed description of the product or service needed by your organization. DCEO suggests posting the solicitation for 30 days with clear requirements on what your organization is soliciting, including due dates for bids. The solicitation may be posted on your organization's website, social media, association email list, or any other method to attract bidders. All bids must be opened at the same time and place. That's the sealed bid part of it. and the lowest bidder meeting the specifications of what your organization is seeking must be awarded a contract. So as long as they're meeting the requirements that your organization said that they need to be met, then you need to pick the lowest bidder. Be sure to document this review process, including the award detail and the bids. It's also good to document where you how you advertised your this opportunity, if it was on your website or social media. So keep those documents handy. All right, proposals. These are proposals. Proposals are required for purchases over 250,000, maybe some different circumstances. But this is when we're looking at if unique skills are required for a vendor, which I could see this coming into play with broadband, but this will be that will be determined by your grant manager, and it probably is a case-by-case basis. But like sealed bids, you must publicly solicit vendors through a detailed description of the product or service needed by your organization. We suggest that you post this for 30 days with a clear due date, just like the sealed bids. Post it on your organization's website, social media, to attract more bidders and to attract the right bidders. Your organization must have a written method to conduct the evaluation of the proposals. DCEO suggests that methods include how to evaluate cost and effectiveness and demonstrate a separation of duties in your review, meaning that you have a supervisor sign off on these reviews. A contract is awarded to the most reasonable offer or whose proposal is the most advantageous to your organization. So as with sealed bids, you must document this process, how you came to this conclusion with the review, including both the award detail and the proposals that were denied. All right, lastly, we have non-competitive procurements. This is most likely when an item is from a single source. So if this is something that only one business can provide to your organization, that's usually when this comes into play. There may be public information to prove that this purchase is from a single source. And if this is the case, remember to document this reasoning and work with DCEO to determine that. There may be unique circumstances when a non-competitive procurement may be appropriate. So you're going to want to reach out to DCEO and your grant manager to receive that guidance. But just know that that's a category in these procurement standards. All right, now that we've covered the type of procurements, let's talk about some tips to remain in compliance with these procurement standards. I would start with the procurement summary. So this is on our grantee resource site. We'll also put it in the chat. This is a very short summary of what I've talked about, what kind of the big picture procurement standards are. I recommend maybe not reading the whole 2 CFR 200, but look at these 200.317 through 327. Those are the ones that talk about the procurement standards. So you're going to want to learn about that and get an understanding of those details before purchases start to happen. You're also going to want to, you're going to want to create a written procurement policy for your organization if you don't already have one. But having a procurement policy in place so that your organization is in compliance and is meeting those procurement standards is really important. And we recommend that you that you get that policy in place with all of your staff. And as always, make sure to document all procurements, including the solicitation phase, research, the reviews, the awards, and the denials. So you want to make sure that throughout this process, you are keeping track of how you did things. Okay. And that is all I have on procurement. I recommend all potential grantees or current grantees check out our DCEO grant opportunities page. So this is where you will find resource guides, video tutorials, several other resources that are pertinent to potential and current grantees. So we have short video tutorials on just getting started with applying for grants, what the grant application process looks like, and then once you are a grantee, what to expect as a grantee with DCEO. You can also contact our Office of Accountability Grant Help Desk, and that is at ceo.granthelp@illinois.gov. This is the place to go if you've got questions about the GATA grantee portal or grants in general. Feel free to send us an email and we will try to help you with that. We've also got broadband at illinois.gov. This will be especially helpful for this grant and all things broadband. You want to make sure you're contacting them as well. All right, so let's see if we have any questions. Nancy, do we have any questions?
At this time, I don't see questions, but let's give everybody an opportunity to put some of those questions in. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and answer one of my questions. I am wondering, particularly with smaller communities, what do you find is some of the most common challenges that you are, that you receive inquiries about?
Well, one of the things, and I don't think will be happening with any of these participants on the call today, is just knowing that those pre-qualification requirements need to be in place before you apply for a grant. So, those application deadlines are hard deadlines and they are set. So you want to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row before it's application time. So I'm really glad that we are doing this first in this series, just to make sure that that is on your mind and you get in that GATA grantee portal and make sure that you know what your status is. And then you can really get into those grant application details.
Then you had mentioned that there were some links that you wanted to share. I see the links that you've got here as well, and we are definitely going to make sure that when we send the follow-up today to everyone who's registered for the whole series, that they get those links in the body of that email as well. But if you have any other links that you wish to share in the chat, then you can go ahead and do that as well. And I think that people might be just absorbing the information. It was very thorough and clear, and want to give an opportunity to Matt and yourself to offer any sort of final encouragement, comments, takeaways that you wish folks to have today.
Yeah, Nancy, this is Matt. And I would just say, I think, again, this is just so important for, applicants to have a good understanding of GATA and procurement and just the steps in the process. We absolutely want to fund, strong projects and work with new collaborators around the state, but we absolutely want to make sure that we do it the right way and that folks are knowing what they're getting into and in a position to succeed right out of the gates. And so this webinar content is so important, and also just the follow along, Q&A and engagement that we're happy to offer if you or your organization has any questions, moving forward. Don't hesitate to reach out. You've got the contact information on the screen in front of you. We really do want to engage with you, hear from you as an applicant, and hopefully fund you as a grantee. But it's so important that we get it right from the get-go. And one thing I just would emphasize too, with our Digital Equity Capacity Kickstarter grant program that is out right now, we had a webinar focused specifically on it back on July 6th, that there's different ways in which organizations can work together with qualified entities to apply for grants. And so if you're a small organization and you might be intimidated by, a lot of the requirements, the Digital Equity Capacity Kickstarter grant program allows you to work together with others and perhaps select the equivalent of a fiscal agent to work with DCEO and the Office of Broadband on the funding piece of the equation. And so reach out to us if you've got any questions about that. And certainly this content that Amber shared today, so critically important. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And Amber, I don't know if you want to mention anything, and can let you do that. And maybe I have another question to ask after you have any comments.
Just echoing what Matt said, we're here to help. Not only in the thinking about applying for the grant, and as a current grantee, we're here to help you along the way. So reach out to us.
Yeah, I wanted to mention you had had a link at your last presentation that gave people a little bit of information about the monthly pre-qualification trainings. And
yes.
And that was very helpful. I know our audience is becoming informed of those pre-qualification trainings, and word is getting around. Wondering how much of what you have already covered last time and today cover what is on those pre-qualification trainings, or do you further recommend that folks sign on to one of those monthly trainings?
I would say with the pre-qualification trainings, you probably have gotten most of the information from that sort of training you have gotten from this week and last week. But with those trainings, we do have a monthly rotating topic. So if you're feeling comfortable with pre-qualification, we've got other topics that we will be covering along the way. So we will be sure to get that sign up link in a follow-up, but you can also go to this grant opportunities page on the screen, and it will direct you to where to go to sign up for those trainings. But check out the rotating ones. They're going to be helpful for folks that are brand new to grants, but also might need a refresher on a couple of topics.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I see that those go out to December, and perhaps you will develop ongoing after that as well.
That's the plan. We've been getting some good attendance and some good questions, so I think we'll be keeping it up. Yeah.
Great, thank you. We have a procurement question. What purchasing policies and procedures are most likely to get a prospective grantee in trouble?
So I think it would probably have to do with if it was you needed to do a certain type of procurement policy and the money had already been spent. You're going to need to go back and look at your documentation. Why did you make the decision that you made? Why didn't you do a sealed bid, or why didn't you do this type of review? So I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is to keep track and document what you're doing, especially for those very big purchases. You're going to want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row ahead of time. So yeah, I don't want to say getting in trouble. It's more of we want to make sure that we're doing this right, and so that these things can be reimbursed and can be approved. So So making sure that you're checking in with your grant manager and your program staff to make sure that you're doing it the way that you should.
Many thanks. I want to maybe give just a few seconds to anybody else who has a question. Maybe want to just remind everybody that this series is ongoing through the rest of July and August, all of those Thursdays, both months. And of course, those are at 12 p.m. Central Time. So next week, we have a great topic that is going to cover the community role in broadband development. That's going to be a really nice set of presenters that'll come on and talk about how they steered their broadband infrastructure planning with a focus around equity and looking at adoption and sort of what happens beyond. So, you know, how to address your community needs around that. And I really think that you'll look forward to attending that as well. I look forward to it and really hope that, you know, we can continue to have a great engagement around these topics. Amber, it's been great having you. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And want to just say goodbye and want to sign off, maybe give Amber and Matt any sort of signing off comments that they might want to say. And we're very grateful. Thanks again for attending today.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.